Hello. I'm feeling a little bit better. I am improving at a reasonable pace. I ate a hamburger earlier. Anyway, I don't expect very many people to join this, but I was talking to somebody about Unreal Ed because, man, like, if you ever used Hammer to make a Half-Life map, it was just hot garbage. It was just the most unimaginable shit, and I just wanted to dunk on that. Oh, the hamburger sucked. It was a Wendy's, and it was not one of the better Wendy's I've had. There we go. Sorry, I don't even know what my layout is here. But I'm just chilling, letting some people join. Anyway, but yeah, I I had a pretty good time streaming yesterday, and then I went and played Blasphemous 2. And you know what? That game's good. That's my opinion. I thought the first one was pretty good, but it had some problems. The second one is just immaculate, and I'm very impressed by it. Apples. Yeah, this engine has all kinds of apples. Here's some apples. We got apples, we got torches, and then we got little tiny torches. We got a little tiny baby torch. Um, and somewhere in here, there's also, we got joysticks, of course, but then some damn place in here, well, we've got weapon. Weapon. And then, you got Temple orders. But somewhere in here, we got to have eagles. There's some eagle heads hanging somewhere in the map, or there ought to be. I'm actually kind of surprised I'm not finding these. Let's see. There should be one. Oh, there it is. There we are. There's our good, like... Actually, is that an eagle? What is that? I'm soliciting opinions on what this is. Is that a Garg? Because I was just going off the fact that he's kind of beaky. But, yeah, no, I guess that's definitely not an eagle. That's some kind of creature. But anyway, yeah, he's a lift exit. He tells bots how to get off a lift, if I'm not mistaken. There's kind of a turkey energy. I can't argue with that. Anyway. Man, I wasn't sure if 100 people were going to join like yesterday, so I was like, well, how long should I chill to find out? Because I don't think 100 people will join to watch me use Unreal Ed, but I just never know. I don't know what to expect anymore. Yeah, that's true. When you get off a lift, the literal description of that is alighting. You are definitely alighting in that scenario. Speaking of alighting, the cool thing, one of the really cool things about Unreal Ed that just absolutely sucks about Hammer. I don't think they ever fixed this, or maybe they fixed it in like the most recent years. But real-time lighting preview, yeah, get hype. I think when you do this, it trashes the shadows. Let's see. I think, like if we put this guy here, we then have to rebuild lighting. There, and then that's the actual final product. But still, the fact that you can just get a ballpark. I mean, look how good that looks. Yeah. No, it's nuts. Let me make this guy a bit bigger. By the way, if you're wondering what's up with the weird ass 4-pane layout, let me just show you this. If we go to View, Viewports, Configure, if you look at the icons, you'll see that this is actually how it ships. This is the default configuration, having the front and the side view squished over there like that. And my initial reaction was, oh man, we got to fix that. We got to adjust these windows. And you can do that, but then I thought about it and I realized, no, they did that on purpose because the top and the perspective are the most important views, and the other ones are far less so. And so, for instance, if you hit this guy here, right, that emphasizes the shit out of the perspective. And if you think about it, that's kind of cool too. But it also gives top quite a bit more emphasis than the other two. And if we go back to this guy, they've got this one here, which does the same thing, but again, gives top more emphasis. And it's funny because when you look at these, I don't know about you, but I have no trouble looking at this just going, damn, I can absolutely imagine making a hit game in 1988 with a layout that looks like this. This feels very natural to me. But then I'm guessing that these two are just going to be top and perspective. Yep. Because honestly, there's a lot you can do with just top and perspective. And the other ones are only just kind of for fine tuning. Hello, meow go go. Anyway, the other wild thing, and I know this is true of Quake engine games of this era as well, but it's still kind of nutso to think about, is that every single bit of this is in engine geometry. There are no static models here whatsoever. There's no like, oh, we made this in 3D Studio and then imported it. Even stuff like it's like this aperture here. Here, if I do select, whoops, well, that wasn't what I intended. But anyway, this aperture here is carved. They made a tube and then they carved a hole in the side of it. And the reason they could do that is basically because this editor actually has its own native map format, whereas Half-Life doesn't. It's very funny, but if you've ever used Hammer, you've probably heard the admonition that you should never, ever, ever use the carve tool to make something like this. You should either build it out of brushwork, build it out of geometry by carefully assembling things bit by bit and dragging vertices around, or you should import a model made in 3D Studio. And the reason for that is largely that, if we were to like zoom in here, okay, so see this grid that we've got here? And I'm making all this up, but still, this grid, you could imagine this represents integer values, like x position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this thing here is at x 1.6 by y 1.8. In a Hammer map, it supports that. Every vertex is stored as a float value. But when you save it, it snaps it to one of these positions. It snaps it to an integer. And so if you're in Hammer and you hit save and you close and reopen it and reload the same file, you get a different map. It's just gone. Your original map is gone forever and there's no getting it back. Because for no reason that anybody can possibly explain, Valve decided not to let the internal data structures of Hammer be exportable. So instead, when you export a map, there is permanent guaranteed data loss every time. You cannot save a map, then re-import it and have the same map. Something will change every time. And this is unavoidable. And people will tell you like, oh, always snap to grid and always make sure your vertices land on grid intersections and whatnot, and it doesn't matter. You're going to do it anyway. And the wonderful thing about that is that it results in leaks, because the Half-Life engine uses BSP and I can't remember the name for the other thing, but anyway, it uses BSP. Yes. Sorry. Yes, Worldcraft had this bug and Valve just didn't fix it, and they never fixed it. It's still there, as far as I know. I don't believe they ever repaired this. Anyway, so the Half-Life / Quake engine is based around BSP, and the what am I looking for here? Basically, when it does its lighting and visibility calculations, right? What it does is it takes every light and it sends out rays in all directions, and those rays go bouncing off to calculate, where they're going to hit and spread light around. And if they hit a gap between two panels and they fly out into the void, then you get a leak and you can't compile the map. And what you end up getting as a result is something that looks like this. There's no lighting, and if you run it on an old computer, it'll run at like 13 FPS, because due to that leakage, it's impossible to calculate what areas are visible from other areas, so the game can't produce what's called it can't produce a BSP visibility tree. So as a result, every single map has to be sealed up tight as a well, I don't have a euphemism here, an analogy here, but anyway, every map has to be absolutely watertight. And if you screw this up, your map is ruined. And so every single Half-Life mapper in history has spent 80% of their time dealing with leaks. Yeah, so let me show you something. Let's make a new map, all right? Watch this. I'm going to make a box here. Okay, here's our box. Box. And then, let's see, where the hell's the scale tools? Is it? Nope, that's actor stretching. That's actor scaling. Hang on a second, it's been a little bit. Hang on a second. How do I do admit that it's been a hot second since I did this. Where the hell is the one? Is this it? Oh, there it is. There we go. Okay, let's make that tall. Okay. And congratulations, this is the default texture in Unreal Ed. I detest it. It scares me a little bit. The only reason it doesn't scare me more, I have a phobia of shapes that look like this. The only reason it doesn't bother me more is because I'm so used to it, because as a kid I spent many, many hours in this editor. I don't know what it's supposed to reflect. I mean, what the fuck is that? This weird bubbly surface creeps me the shit out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a... By the way, I need to select all surfaces so I can retexture them, and holy crap, look at all these options. Hammer can go to hell. Look at all this. You can have it select all just textures, not brushes, in the same group or part of the same brush or anything with the same texture anywhere in the map. But then you can also do shit like, look at this, you can memorize the selected textures, then select other textures, and then perform an XOR with them. I mean, get out. Anyway, so we'll select all those, and then, oh, and it has been a little bit. Here we go, texture browser. And we'll just go ahead and pull up Sky City. No, what am I looking for? Buy package. Sorry. I wonder if this is just what was loaded. Here, let's see. Ancient. Nope, that's terrain. This looks industrial. Nope, that's just some blood splats. Sky City, Skybox. Oh, UT Base 1? Wow, I'm not really getting nearly as many textures as I would have liked out of this. Well, anyway, there's one. And then we just go to the actor browser and we get a player start, and we put that there and compile. and our game is running. Just like that. And in Hammer, you would have had to spend quite a while getting all your brushes lined up because you can't make a single brush map in Hammer. It's impossible. You can't have a single object. You have to have at least 6 because you need to make a box. And you have to build the box out of individual walls, which is incredibly irritating. But here, this uses CSG, and that's always the reason it was explained to me why you don't need to worry about this. I don't know if that's true. But anyway, this uses CSG, and one moment. The cool thing about that is that people refer to it as subtractive rather than additive, and I don't really know what the real science behind it is, but basically it means that the world, the way people describe it, is that the world starts out as a solid lump of clay, and then you're removing material from it. And I don't know if that's an accurate way of describing it, but practically speaking, it is, because if we just build out some areas here. Oh, whoops. I'm not pasting these on the same plane. Just do like that. Put those there, and then build. Bam. Now we've got a different shape. And we could just go ahead and keep stacking these up. We don't need to worry about where we're putting them or whether they're falling on fucking grid lines or any nonsense like that, because everything is valid by default. You can't have leaks. It's impossible. There's no such thing. And everything we do is intrinsically valid because it's floating point internally. Either that, or if there's integers, then the editor is snapping to the same integers as the damn game. So, yeah. All right, so the red brush is what people refer to as a build brush or a construction brush. And the idea with that is that this is a primitive that's created when you create a, like if you hit square or cylinder or whatever over here on the left, it makes this guy here. And this isn't actually part of the world. This is a stamp. So you can cut there and then move here and cut there, and then you can move in between those and perform a cut there, and all it's really doing is copy pasting itself. But it means that rather than having to copy paste, make a change, copy paste, make a change, you can instead make a small change to this brush and paste that, and then you can make another small change and you can do that, and you can just keep repeating this without having to copy and paste the actual brushes. And then, of course, if you just want to get rid of that, you can just switch to another. Oh no, I'm sorry. I forgot how this worked. The general size and dimensions and scale of the brush is maintained. So if we make a cylinder, for instance, you can see it's kind of squished here now. And I think there's a way to reset that. Let me see if I remember. How does that work? Again, it has been a while. There we go. Reset all. Terrific. And then, so let me just get rid of some of these. There is a build step, but the build is so fast, even on contemporary computers. My experience is that building a map, like performing the BSP calculations and lighting calculations and whatnot, is so goddamn fast that even on computers of the time, it was as if you didn't need to do it. So I hit that, and bam, just like that, everything's updated. If I wanted to do radiosity, that would also... well, here, let me put a light in there. We really need a light in here. One thing that is irritating about this era of the engine is that it doesn't have lights as a first-class object. They're instead called actors, so you have to put them in the actor interface. So that's not too big a problem, of course. Let's see. Distance, torch flame. Oh, that's right. Sorry, we just put in light. Dink. All right, now we have a light, and if we render, there we go. Now we've got our first light, and it immediately looks amazing. And then if we move this around, it real-time calculates the lighting effects as best it can. And then again, look how fast the radiosity calculation is. I mean, in Hammer, well, I mean, obviously I'm on a frickin' 24-core i9, but even at the time, it was very fast. I remember this being a thing. So just the development loop is incredibly short, and you can iterate very, very quickly. And because the results look so damn good, my experience was I like really could not get myself to stick with any of the Quake or Half-Life modding tools just because they did not invigorate me. But yeah, circa 1999, this came with the game, right? And you just fire it up, and within seconds, literally within a minute or two, I was in the game and making stuff. I mean, come on, like that's sick as hell. And then it also tempted me deeply with some other things. For instance, if we go into the lighting again, and we get and again, I hopefully I remember how to do this correctly. If we, there we go. Yeah, I think I got it. Let's get rid of our other light here, and then recalculate. Okay, so it's got built-in spotlights, right? So that one's not omnidirectional, and I don't believe it's real-time calculated. I think. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's real-time calculated. So as we move this around, there we go. You can see how the fall off is going to go, etc. And then we just go into the settings here. There's been this ongoing meme. There's been this ongoing meme for many years of like, oh, you want to get into game dev? Just make a Doom map. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Even as a kid, I couldn't get into that. I just couldn't. But what you can do is you can make an Unreal map. That's old Unreal. I don't know what the new stuff is like. I bounced off of it pretty hard, but then also I'm different than I used to be. But look at this. I mean, you can install this on your computer by extracting a zip file, and it will run on any version of Windows since '98. And it's just, done, right? And you can do a lot of stuff here. And then it also has, for instance, effects that are built in. And some of these are pretty sick. Let me see if I can, here we go. As a kid, I was always super hype about like the water shimmer. And like stuff like this. As a kid, I just went absolutely nuts for this. And again, you can just see this in the damn editor, right? How cool is that? And of course, you can color it because we were in that era. As long as you don't have a voodoo. There's color. Yeah, there we go. Color. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Hack for Never. Glad to hear it. I really appreciate everybody telling me how their recovery process went. Because when it's happening, you're kind of like, am I just gonna feel like this forever? Not the highest lighting resolution, by the way. You can see it's pretty crunchy. But yeah, the thing I like about this versus like Doom is just that you could make anything imaginable in it, right? Doom has hard limitations that cannot be fixed. It's an old game and it's never going to be a modern game. And if you're used to modern games and you want to make a modern game, then I don't find anything satisfying about trying to make a Doom level. Just nothing. It doesn't do anything for me. I would like to be able to make rooms over rooms without having to spend 300 hours faking it in an editor for a game that, a version of the game didn't exist in 1993 anyway. So, I just want to do stuff, and this, like, if you can cope with basic 3D editor techniques, then you can cope with this. I mean, even I've used the modern Doom map editors. They suck ass. I don't know what to tell you. They're bad. They're all bad because the game engine is very limited. I don't want to use any of that stuff. I just want to make things. This is a 3D editor on par with like Blender. Like, I just want to do stuff. So for instance, let's make a. I had this idea in my head. I'm gonna see if I can make it. Let's just see what we can do here. Let me park this stuff off over here. Let's see. We want to make this room tall. Now, one thing, there are some pretty complicated shapes when you look at the levels that come with the game. Oh, whoops. I wanted to turn on snapping. How do I do that? Drag grid, rotation grid. Is there a scale grid? I'd really like there to be a scale grid. That's one thing that's it's kind of bugging me. View. Vertex snap was already on. That's texture lock. That's a drag grid. Yeah, but it just seems like there's... Well, here's the thing, though. There is a programmatic... There we go. There is a numeric entry field. So let's go ahead and make a numerically perfect cylinder here. There we go. There we go. There we go. Of course, one thing that's bugging me is how come... I must have messed something up, because look at this. The center point is there on a grid line, but the top and bottom aren't. And that doesn't necessarily matter, per se, but I don't love it. Oh, it's because it's from the... I get it. I get it. It's because the origin is in the dead center, and this doesn't divide up evenly. Also, yes, when Serious Sam came out, that was absolutely nuts. Serious Sam had stuff going on like in-engine or in-editor, like live engine preview. It was completely nuts. You could be in the Serious editor and you'd like press F9 and then this window would just be the game, like within 2 or 3 seconds. And that was on like a early Pentium 4, I want to say. Just wild. All right, so as I understand it, what I should be able to do now is I should be able to slice up this cylinder here safely. Or I guess I could do this a few different ways, but let's try this. So I'm going to do like this. Oh, this is another fun thing that I don't think this is in Hammer, and I really like it. If you hold Shift while clicking, your camera locks to the brush as you drag it around. Lovely stuff. Okay, so I believe that if I do this and then I hit clip. Oh, whoops. I think that didn't work because I didn't make it tall enough. Just realized. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so can I clip this? Does not seem like I'm doing it right. Yeah, so I might need to actually build this as a brush. Dink. So far I've been making brushes that are subtractive, but you can make them additive as well. So the one I just made is... Let me get rid of the red brush here. Oops. Put that down there. All right, so now I have a blue brush, and that's an additive brush. And this... You could put this anywhere, and if there's no subtractive brush there, it won't do anything. But if you put it in the middle of a subtractive brush, then it creates new geometry there. So my assumption is that if I select both of these and then perform a clip, then ding, and you don't get any money. Oh man, I don't want to have to Google this. I do have some documentation up in my other screen, but oh man, I must be doing it wrong. Oh man, this is a bummer. Split selected brushes. Yeah, I would think that's how you would do it. Okay. Well, let me read the documentation. One moment. One moment, please. The blue brush means it's additive. Here, let me illustrate that better. Right. So, okay. So this is the brush I was using at the get-go, and I just copied over here, and now this is subtractive. So it just makes a hallway coming off this sphere here. But if I put it in here, normally if I build this, then nothing happens. But if I go into, oops, there we go. If I go to CSG and make this additive, bink, then it becomes an object. And likewise, we can safely just park this over here, and it'll jut out of the wall while creating nothing outside the cylinder, because it has no subtractive component. And again, to reiterate for anybody who didn't see this earlier, because this uses the subtractive approach, that means it's impossible to have a leak. The entire level is always watertight at all times, so you simply never have to deal with leaks ever. Pretty cool. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Okay, I misunderstood how the clipping tool works. So we go to clip. Oh, it's a clipping tool. Oh, okay. So there must be something up here for it. There it is, brush clipping. That's what I've been getting wrong. Oh. Oh, okay. So, oh, I don't trust like that. Oh, this is going to do bad things. Oh, weird. It seems like it's only letting me select vertices, but it doesn't seem to center on those vertices. All right, let me get out of that. Oh. How do I reset this? Oh, okay. You control right click in order to just place a pin anywhere. Oh, terrific. Okay. So then how do I reset this? Please hold. Must be up in the edit menu somewhere. Brush clip. Delete all clip markers. Delightful. There's a lot of stuff here that's just like where I would want it to be. You know what I mean? All right, so if we go here to here, and then we perform a split. Oh, there we go. Now we can delete that. Okay, and now let's go from there. Oops. From there to there, and the angle pointing off here tells us which side will get destroyed if we do a clip operation. So, all right. Well, anyway, if we rebuild, then we've got our new. Oops. There we go. Okay, now we've got our new circular room here. Now, the one thing that does bug me about this, and don't get me wrong, this is one thing I wish they did differently, is you can't just like click and drag to put down a box. So like I wish they did do that. So reset all. So do I have to select this? Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I do. That makes sense. So for instance, I want to make this extend off the edge of this curve here, but I don't know that I know how to do that. I don't think there's any way to like Yeah, I don't think there's any way to like drag the edges of this to get it where I want it. Oops, that's rotate. Yeah, we can rotate it, we can scale it, but I don't see a way to just... There is a vertex editing tool, and supposedly, you know, that... I guess if you got good with that, you could use that. On the other hand, what I've read is that it is turbojank. And the other thing is that this program, being very old, has no undo that works. Like, there's an undo, but it really doesn't work very well. The other thing is I haven't found any sort of box select tool. And I remember this being a thing back in the day that I always did have trouble. For instance, if we want to select everything that's under this point, I don't think there's a way to do that. Like we can select a vertex here. But you see, like I'm clicking on things that really should be producing a result and just nothing's happening. And this is admittedly the biggest problem with this program. Like, it's gotten itself into some kind of godforsaken state. I don't know what it is. Here we go. Okay, yeah, now suddenly I can select vertices. Why was that not working before? Yep, bing, there it is. But, yeah, I've tried every combination of modifiers with my mouse, and there is no selection box. So, you know, that's a bummer. That's really quite a bummer. But again, this stuff was just very, very new, you know? It was incredibly new. Hang on a second. I'm looking this up. I found somebody on the Unreal Engine forums posting in 2014 asking, can I drag select instead of clicking everything individually? And someone replied, as of 4.5.1, they added it to the perspective view. Dragging with Control and Alt. Oh, shit. Look at that. Oh, man. Somehow I just never tried Control and Alt. Okay, so that's a game changer. That means we can do that, and then we can do that. See... Oh, now see, because the bottom vertex doesn't... This is one other issue I've been having. Because the bottom vertex doesn't land on a grid line, I don't seem to be able to snap to it. This really gets to the heart of the matter. I don't know... Is there a way to solve this? Because without this, it's really a problem. And back in the day when I was doing this stuff, I just didn't care. So the last time that I did any of this, I just didn't care if that worked. So I would not have known if it was just fundamentally broken. Because I would consider that broken. You can't work like that. That's nothing. Come on. If you just can't align to another object you're editing, like, no way. I know I can turn off grid snap, you know, if I do this, right? But, and you know what, to be fair, oh, I was going to say, look, it managed to snap on there anyway, but nope. Yeah, I cannot make that land on there, and that's unacceptable, right? There's going to be a ridge, and it's going to cause geometry problems. Now, you can't get a leak, so that's cool. But, I mean, still, yeah. So bear with me for a moment. I did not... You're seeing me relearn how to do this as we're working here. I deliberately did not preview this very much, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out how to solve this. And if I can't, then, well, it's kind of a killer, because, you know, Yeah, how do you work like that? That's kind of nothing. And I don't really see any tools over here for dealing with that. There's nothing down here, just for kicks. Okay, so this is the smallest grid size it supports also. Ooh, and it's really squirrely. Yeah, the mouse becomes like super sensitive down at this resolution. Sorry everyone for the delay. I literally cannot continue. Well, there's no leaking in this engine, but in Hammer in the Half-Life engine, if your level is not absolutely perfectly watertight, then what happens is it can't calculate the lighting or visibility. And the result is it throws a big nasty error message that yells leak, leak, leak. And then when you try and run your level, first off, it'll be full bright. You'll have no lighting, so it'll look like this. And secondly, it will run at like 12 FPS, even in a very simple map, on a computer of the time. Because it's unable to calculate which parts of the level should be displayed at any given point, so it just has to render all of them at all times. So it just trashes your performance. Very frustrating. Okay, here we go. I found a page on this old wiki where people are discussing exactly this problem. Let me see what they say. Wow. Ah, damn. Yeah, is there any easy way to move a vertex to another vertex of a different brush when they're not snapped to grid? Vertex snap suggests it would do this, but it only snaps the pivot point. No answer. Presumably this was many years ago, too. Add a node? No. There is absolutely no solution to it. What you have to do is you run... What you have to do is you run you run the game. So you run your compile in Hammer. That produces a level which has a known error, but the map editor is incapable of showing you this error for God knows what reason. Instead, what you have, and I may be misremembering this, somebody can tell me if I'm wrong here, but if I remember correctly, what you have to do is to then launch the game, run a console command which spits out a file, then exit the game and get back into the editor and load that generated file. And that will show you a trace that indicates where the bounce calculation found the leak. Why the editor can't do this itself is anybody's guess. It's absolutely... You can see the point file, but can't it not generate the point file itself? Don't you have to do it in the game? I could swear that was how it worked. Either way, it's turbo janky. And there's really just no need for it because, yeah, again, I mean, Unreal nails it. And that's the other thing, right, is it won't just like warp you to where the leak is. You have to manually fly around the level in the editor, searching and searching and searching to figure out where the leak is. It's barbarian. It's almost like it's a map editor from about 1996 when 3D engines were brand new. Has anybody considered this? Has anybody considered this? Has anybody thought about this? You know, I have this idea. All right, well, yeah, I might be overthinking it, but anyway. Let's see. Also, according to other comments here, if I were to take two of these vertices and drag them on top of one another to try and make this cube into a triangle, it would shit the bed. Like, it would crash the editor. So that's fun. I mean, what is it supposed to do? But still, it's very funny. All right, well, you know what? Who cares? Let's just go ahead and do it. Bingo. And then, oh, apparently at some point in this process, I forgot to scale my brush vertically. Okay, so let's put that over there, and we'll get this guy here. I mean, it's possible that the difference just isn't that great, and I'm not going to notice it. So, well, that's obviously I have the grid snap set back to 16. There we go. Yeah, none of that's matched up. This is the sort of stuff back in the day that really kept me from doing more with this sort of thing, right? Like, as much as I do like Unreal Ed, and I think it's really cool and ahead of its time, I do have to admit that, this is exactly the sort of thing where I would look at it and just go, well, that's obviously not how you do it. I must be missing something, because this can't be, this is not how we're going to be proceeding here, right? But it's entirely possible that, yes, that is exactly how we're proceeding. And the question is just, is it a problem? Well, I would say that's a problem. We can clearly see a ridge there on the floor. Now, it might just be the case that, the usual way of dealing with this is just to cover it up. Yep, Unreal does the subtractive editing. Anyway, so let's go ahead and proceed anyway. So the neat thing about it being subtractive editing, however, the thing I'll give it is that we don't need this part to line up perfectly. Like, we can overlap these areas, and because they're both subtractive, it's going to add up to just one volume. And, like, obviously there's a ridge here, but only because I couldn't get the bottoms lined up. But it all adds together, right? So the fact that here in the middle we've got these overlapping, this doesn't matter. And yeah, I mean, let's be clear. Like, a lot of my reactions to a lot of stuff on computers is, hang on, that can't be how you're supposed to do it. Like, this, don't get me wrong, this is frequently an exclamation of mine. So the question is, what can we do to solve this? And for instance, I guess what I could do, since the bottom matters, the top doesn't really, let's just line that up like that, right? And now theoretically, we should be fine. Okay. Now, the other question is, if you look at like actual Unreal Tournament maps, you would see things like this being pulled in at the top to create sort of a dome. I don't know of an easy way to do that other than to manually pull in all the vertices to create a shape like that. And the other thing is, this shape is very simple vertically. So well, okay. First off, let's save this. DM bullshit. That's the name of this map. Couple things. Let's make ourselves feel a little better here. First off, let's select all adjacent walls. Oh, and that highlighted a point. Look at that. We've got some exposed quote unquote wall up there. Let's go get a different texture here, and let's try and start making this look a little nicer. So let's start with what do we have? City. Like, obviously we can see there's some scaling issues here with the textures. Here we go. That'll probably look okay. And then we should be able to align. What's align as auto do? Okay, that looks better. And then if we select adjacent floors, ceilings, oops, I held shift instead of control, and that caused it to select the geometry instead of the surface. There we go. Now let's go put a texture on these that's not that one. I don't know what. Let's see. Yeah, sure. And then we should be able to align as floor ceiling. There we go. Okay, that looks a little better. And then, you know what? Let's cheat over here and just... Oh, that's not going to work because it's not square. Damn. Well, okay. Again, let's just make it a different surface. Yeah, there we go. All right, and let's get a little bit of detail in here. That's a good idea, Vivian. That seems like a solid way to do it. Select everything in this brush, and let's just go get some kind of, yeah, there we go. And then, no, I want something with a different color to it. Let's do, there we go. And then on the bottom here, oh man, this is a very contemporary kind of complaint, but you can't mouse wheel through this list. For some reason, they must not have added that. Okay, there we go. And then let's get a light going on here. And of course we're going to do some movie magic because we're not really just going to put in one light. We're probably going to put in a lot of lights. For instance, I wonder, well, let's just do a basic light to begin with. Let's see how much light that casts. Man, I love how fast that is. Now, this would be a multiplayer map, and we're just going to want this massively overlit. We're going to want it just obliterated with lighting. So I'm kind of wondering, do we have any other types of lights? Like there's a distance lighting, for instance. I wonder what that looks like. Oh, hello. Scroll wheels are very old tech. They date back to Windows 95. But the thing is that there was a lot of software that considered them optional because an awful lot of people never used them. Like they were around, but they were very much a nerd thing for a long time. Wow, that's a bit overlit. And also, wow, we got the SSAO corner darkening. Microsoft delivered a update to add wheel support. I think is what it was. Yeah, simple as that. Now that's interesting. Now hang on a second. Why is this the only lighting we're getting? Whoa! What the fuck? Oh, I guess that's some sort of lightning effect. It must be pre-coded to do that. Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, that's set to flicker. We want that to be on steady. In fact, oh, okay. Whoops. If I had the engine lighting simulator pre-selected, we wouldn't have had that problem. Oops, and I need to rebuild lighting. Rebuild. Play. Wow, no, it still doesn't work. So those must be custom coded. All right, well, anyway. For the moment, let's just put a bunch of these in. There we go. Oops, I buried that one in the ceiling. I'll have to figure out how to do this better later. Oh, actually, these all ended up higher than they're supposed to be because this is one thing that has been bugging me. For some reason, when you copy and paste objects, no matter what they are, they come in higher than they come in at some like universal Z position, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know, maybe that's where it was. Well, whatever. Anyway. Okay. So if we were to build a sphere, sphere extrapolation. There we go. Let's build a sphere and place it roughly in the middle here. We don't need this to be perfect. And then we want to just pull in those vertices. Maybe we should extrapolate our sphere a little harder. What does a 3 look like? Yeah, sure, let's go with that. So which one are we going to be referencing here? I guess we probably want that, like, I don't know. I'm bad at this. I'm just going to put that like there. And then I'm going to make that hollow. Oh, that had interesting effects. I'm going to make that hollow just so I don't have to worry about accidentally destroying the brush with what else I'm doing. Okay. Wait a minute. That didn't overwrite the... No, it didn't. Okay, it just looked like it. So remember, carving is not a problem in this engine. Like, everything is made out of carved stuff because it's fine. It's safe. The only reason that was a problem in Hammer is because Hammer sucks. The only reason carving was ever an issue is because Hammer does not save its native internal map format. It saves to BSP and it does rounding. Unreal doesn't. So you could just carve as much as you like. Which, honestly, it's just wild that this was ever a limitation. There was no technical reason that carving needed to be unreliable. All they needed to do was build integer snapping into it, and we never would have had any problems with it. It's just... yeah. Okay. Select matching brush. I'd like to retexture this because it's very ugly to look at, even though it's temporary. Digital Extremes logo.jpg. Okay. So now, I guess I would need to take this brush that we're working with and divide it in a couple locations so I can pull those in. So let's do that. Let's get the trim tool and we'll trim or subdivide, I should say. I guess you know what, let's start here. Okay. We'll start there and we'll do a split. And then we'll come up. Uh-oh. What's going on here? I'm not getting what I want. There we go. That's not it. Wait a minute. What do we have selected here? Whoa. Oh, whoops. That's that box over there. I don't know that there's layers in this editor. That's one thing. The material and shader situation is advanced for 1999, but not very advanced by modern standards, certainly. Put it that way. Okay, anyway. One thing I'm having trouble with is, okay, great, I can see this here, but how do I get it selected in the geometry view? Oh, wait, I think I did this by accident earlier. Control click. No. I swear I control clicked something earlier. Oh, whoops. Alt click deposits the currently selected texture. Neat, but not what I was looking for. How do we... I want to select brush, but I don't see a way to do that. And I swear I accidentally selected the brush earlier, and I was like, oh, damn, that's annoying. And now I can't seem to do it. Yeah, like, I wish that there were layers here so that I could hide all the stuff I'm not currently working with. But I don't know of a way to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't possible at this point in time. Can we do edit? We can select surfaces, but I don't see a way to select a brush based on a surface. We can do matching brush, but that still doesn't select the brush itself. Honestly, I have no idea what they used for shaders at this point. No, I really don't know. I suspect it was custom. This would have been shader model 1. And you know what? Now that I think about it, it probably wasn't shaders at all because they were all supported in software mode. That's right. All of the effects this game can do are fully supported in software rendering. So I doubt that there was any kind of formal, what am I trying to say here? Anything that we would think of now as like a standard shader language. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I just have to sort of click on that border and just nail it. Just do it right. Irritating. That's inconvenient. Well, anyway. Okay, so if we... Was it control right click? Nope, it's shift right click. I keep screwing this up. Delete clip markers. Nope, that's also not working. Oh no, it is control right click. There we go. Now, split that. Okay. You know, it just occurred to me that I think if I right click on this, hide. That's right. That was their solution. Their solution for layers is you could just manually hide individual objects just like that. So, and then you can re-show them manually. So if we just, come on. Why can't I shift? Please, sir. Oh, whoops, that's my fault. I was trying to box select and I did it wrong. So we select all of these. Oh, we can't hide these. Oh, no, there we go. It is janky, don't get me wrong. It is from 1999. It's not perfect. Oh no, they do inclusive select rather than oh no, it's not just overlap select. It must be because I picked the center pivot point of that object. Well, anyway. So let's hide that as well. And then it's very, it's not very granular, right? When you're all done, you're just going to when you want to bring back your hidden stuff, you're just going to go to view and you're just going to do a no, it's not under view. Where the hell is it? Here we go. Go to actor and just do show all. I suspect that you could do groups. I think that's probably where the magic happens. I think you can group stuff. And then that, yep. You could group stuff. That's your layers system. Select actors in group. Because every single object in the game is an actor. So you could take all of your geometry that's part of a room and put it in a given group. And you know what? We're going to check shortly, and we're going to see whether that's how they solved this problem in a map that actually comes with the game, because I'm super curious. Okay, so we don't... You know what? We don't need that. That's the starting area I built. Let's get rid of that. Let's move the light over here for fun. All right, and now we set about finding out, is it possible to... Well, wait a minute, that's interesting. Why can't we see the selected geometry from the top view here? We've got it selected in the other view. Why does it not show as selected in this one? It must be overlapped. It's getting the Z wrong. Well, good times. So let me think. So we're going to go to Vertex editing. Let me save this. There we go. Oh, you know what? I need to rebuild, don't I? Well, no, that didn't work. The thing that currently sucks is that I cannot see any of the vertices from the top view here. Oh, there we go. Now it shows selected. Oh, but now it's selected the bottom one. You know what? We're going to have to hide each one of these in turn to get this done. I'll have to start by hiding that one and hiding that one. And now it shows the selection. Ugh. Well, what can you do? So then the next question is, can we shift select these and then unshift select them up here? Because how are we going to... Let's try that again. I want to invert my selection. That doesn't work. Like all those are selected, obviously. And we can move them. But I want to deselect this center one. So that I can... Basically, I'm trying to... How do I select just the top vertex here? Because if I do it here, then I'm going to risk over-penetrating and hitting a vertex on the other side. And if I do it here, then I'm going to frequently hit the one on the... Well, I guess if I'm hitting the one on the top, maybe that's not a problem. So let's just see if we can do it. So what would this look like? We would what? We would pull this in towards the center. Like that. Now, I did read that vertex editing in Unreal Ed 2 is very buggy and that it should be avoided, but I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what that person's expectations were. So now I do have a phobia of distorted 3D graphics. So hopefully this does not corrupt anything or I will freak out. I'm going to rebuild. Oh, that looks like it worked, but it's interacting with the sphere, obviously. So let me, you know what? Screw the sphere. I don't need it for reference. That was a good idea, but I don't think my brain works very well with it. Okay. Well, honestly, that looks like it's working. It just needs, well, maybe. Whoa, there's some interesting stuff going on that edge there. Add a node. Yes, this works directly in the game's native format, so I could just straight up open it. And I'm going to do that later. Okay, well, that looks like it worked, frankly. So oops. I may have gotten too aggressive with that. I need to space these out more. And then the outer vertices need to come in. By the way, I should mention I have no game dev experience of any meaningful way. I'm just doing this. I'm doing this largely based on things I did when I was about 12 years old. You know what, actually? Let's put that there. No idea if this is going to look reasonable, but there, just eyeball it. There. That doesn't look too bad from here. Oh, but you know what? I screwed up this one. This one needs to be... Or no, that's right. Sorry. The thing below this is going to pull in to meet these. So now what we're going to do is we're going to, very unfortunately, we're going to invert hidden actors. Okay, it's not so bad. And then we're going to pick this one. Now that's interesting. If we inverted, then why is the one we just edited still visible? Shouldn't that be invisible? Additionally, oh, right, because it's a hollowing brush, so we see the inner surface of it. Okay, that's why it looks like that. But yeah, why is this now visible if we inverted? So if we perform a show all, no change. Well, let's try this anyway. We hide this, okay? Then, come on, right click, you some bitch, right click. And then we hide that, and then we go to actor, and we invert hidden actors view. Oh, there we go. Oh, terrific. I won! Now we should be able to... Oops, that's the clipping tool. That's not what I wanted. Brush, clip, delete. Vertex edit. There we go. See, again, we're getting that thing where it's not letting me select vertices. But if I click there and click back, nope, still not. Why? Why? I don't get it. Why is it just like moving this little red thing? Come on. Why can't I select anything? What did I do to deserve this? Was I bad in a previous life? I'm going to rebuild. Maybe that's the problem. Nope. No, it's just broken. Womp womp. I'm going to load a different map and then come back. Wait a minute. But I already saved changes. Why is it asking me if I want to save? Has none of this been saving? That would be amazing. Yes. Well, hopefully that's saved. But anyway, yeah, here's a map that came with the game. And there's no, conversion process or anything. This is just it. This is the map. Hello, hi. Everything's here. We got the apples and the torches, and there's a gargoyle somewhere. And yeah, this is the map. You can come in here and see anything you want. So, for instance, I was making the comment earlier that, to the best of my knowledge, this object here, this frame around this door, that's carving, as far as I know. They just made a cylinder, and then they cut a hole into it. And then, yeah. And that's safe, because you can just do whatever you want. Because it's good software. And all of this, to the best of my knowledge, this is all geometry. This is all in-game brushes. They just drug the vertexes around, vertices. All of this is probably started as a toroid, a cylinder, and they cut some bits out. There is a terrain builder, but I think they only used it on outdoor maps. So, for instance, if we jump over to outdoor map, that would include, come on, Arcane Temple, Fractal, Gothic. I know there's at least one map that straight up just has like some dirt. Galleon. This is going to kill me. Arcane Temple? Here we go. Well, that's not terrain. That's just a brush. The water system, by the way, is outstanding. It's all done with volumes, so you can't have water leak. If I remember correctly, this was a thing that was a problem in like Half-Life, where you could actually have water leak out of its intended area because it was defined by a plane. But if we align viewport to 3D and then we come in and look, here we go. I believe, if I remember correctly, or hell, for all I know, I'm misremembering this and I have it backwards, but let's see. If we go to engine brush properties, that's additive. Oh, no, okay, so that's... No, that seems to be invisible, so maybe that is the water brush. Collision, advanced. I'm trying to remember how the hell this works. Like, for instance, what does this do? That's a path node, so that's not it. Oh, come on, brain. Or is it... Wait a minute. There it is. I think that's the guy. Engine brush properties. What do you do? They've got some special way of associating something with... I could have sworn the way this works is simply that water is a volume, and you don't need to worry about like capping it off properly, because you can just have water floating in space basically. Again, I guess I could just Google this. Good Gorgle. Well, I mean more like if I recall correctly in Gold Source, you could just straight up have like water leak out and fill your whole map. But here, I'm pretty sure it's a volume, so you could, water is only in the places you want it to be guaranteed because it's a physical like shape. But I'm having trouble finding it. Damn it. The other thing that's annoying is that for some reason, the one remaining Unreal Wiki that has any data on it about this is it's got a messed up CSS, so every single page is justified off to the left, so you can't see most of the text, and I have to keep editing it every time to remove the defective CSS. Okay, let's see. Okay, I am wrong. I am misremembering. Volumes were added in UT 2003. Prior to that, they were using zone portals. So, never mind. I'm full of shit. I'm pretty sure then that the little green sheet that's hovering right here is exactly the thing I was saying it was. It's a water zone portal, and it tells it what. Oh no. Oh no. Sorry. I'm reading the documentation, the tutorial here, and it says, make a builder brush that's a sheet, set the dimensions so it touches the walls or spills over into solid space, then you add a special brush and you pick zone portal from the drop down. Your map might now look dreadful. The addition of a portal sometimes confuses the BSP. I do not relish the idea of seeing what that would look like. That would probably give me a panic attack. Well, crap. Yeah, I cannot figure out where the hell the water definition comes from. Oh, wait. Is this it? Yep, water zone. There it is. Okay, that's what it is. So you basically just you put this on one side of a zone, and then boop, and then when the engine slices it up, it'll decide that that's the water side. So now, if I were to save this, build it, and run it, I'm guessing the entire world will be underwater. Okay, not the entire world, but oh, well. Well, something's amiss, right? Respawn. There we go. There are other zone dividers in the world, so most likely what's going on is that the if we walk out a doorway into the outside world, then we'll suddenly be underwater. It's probably what's going to happen. I just have to figure out where that part of the level is because I don't have cheat codes turned on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I misrepresented things. This is exactly the phenomenon I was talking about, and I believe this can happen in Half-Life as well. Most likely, as soon as we walk through this doorway, dink. Zones are used to sort of hint at the engine how to split up BSP spaces for extra visibility calculations and whatnot. So it's pretty common in this era for things like this to happen. And of course, if we go underwater, whoop. Anyway. But yeah, so absolutely everything in this level, as far as I'm aware, is geometry. So for instance, here we go. This space that we're in right now, this is not a displacement or anything. This is a this is just a perturbed brush. This is a sphere where they just pulled the edges of it around. And then I guess one thing I'm curious about, and let's see if we can figure out how they did this, is okay, so I was wondering to myself, if this is a sphere, there we go. Sorry. If this is just a distorted object, then How does this happen? Well, the answer is that they have a stack of positive and negative brushes here, and the positive brushes take precedence. So basically, these blue brushes here are being used to add walls back to the. Oh man, this is cool. Here, if we just get rid of that and then rebuild. Okay, see, this is the underlying shape. So that's very easy to build because you build your two hollow brushes and then you make a new hollow brush extending out from that, and it builds the geometry as you'd expect. But if we put this guy back, I'm probably not going to line this up right. Okay, then we find that it's a, how does this work? I'm trying to remember how this works. Because, okay, this is a solid block, right? So we have the solid block here, and then the negative block inside of that is cutting a hole into the solid block, creating these thick walls. But wait a minute then, why isn't this cutting brush cutting that brush? And I don't know the answer to that. So for instance, if we were to pull this forward so that it's no longer fully intersected, then there'd be no tunnel there. So there's some sort of pecking order here. And if we were to back that up, there's some sort of order of operations here where first this hollows, then this adds, then this hollows again. I wonder how they achieve that. Is there an order of operations defined in the brush? I don't see anything. Yeah. I guess this is something I've always wondered about, how do they resolve this? Because when you're doing an engine like Quake or Half-Life where everything is solid, it's very simple. Everything is solid. Done. But in this one, because you have solid and negative brushes, how do you decide which one wins? Very interesting. I'm sorry, this is going to perturb me for a bit. Because again, it's not something I can easily like Google. And let's see. Is there anything in the there's nothing in the settings that seems to correspond to that. And yeah, maybe that's it, right? Maybe it's as simple as the order these were created. But then I guess the way I'd respond to that is it does not feel like it matches up with the code quality of Unreal or Unreal Tournament to just have that be a matter of chance, right? There would have to be a way to adjust it. And that means it can't just be order of creation. There has to be an identifier somewhere that this is leveraging, because otherwise the only way to make this happen would be to like make your object and then go, ah, damn, I didn't do it in the right order. And then you delete it and do it again. And then you go, ah, shit, that didn't work either. And then you have to make another object to pad out the IDs, then make your new one, then delete your old one, leaving a gap in the object IDs. There's no way. There's no way that with the quality and the like rightness of the way that Unreal was designed, like, oh, sure, it's old. Don't get me wrong, it's old. And it's clunky in ways that are typical for being old. But by and large, this was the most correctly, most like philosophically intact video game developed for many years on either side. Quake is a disgusting pile of hacks compared to Unreal, and it really feels like one of those. It really feels like one of those projects where they said, "Well, we're starting from scratch, so let's do the thing nobody ever does. Let's do it right. Let's do everything correctly." So the entire engine is object-oriented. Absolutely everything is object-oriented. All the code, all of the game logic, every single bit beyond the renderer itself is implemented in an internal virtual machine. And it's all in bytecode, so you can inspect it all. So if we just jump into, let's go to, oh shoot, let me remember where the damn editor is. Do we just do it here? Yes. So for instance, if you'd like to see how player movement works, that's no problem, because all you have to do is go in, Sorry. Go into player pawn, right click, edit script. Bam. Here's the damn source code for the game. It's just right there. You can edit it. This is player.cs, you know? And it's all just there. Like, I think I found a quote somewhere, I can't remember what it was, where it is, but it's something like 95% of the game is implemented in this language. So I can literally just type something here and save and then run the game. Now there's a compilation step, but still, it's pretty damn close. So for instance, there's a really irritating behavior in the game called dodging that they added to a number of games in this era, and thank God they stopped. But if you double tap your movement keys, like double tap left, you'll suddenly leap in that direction. This is the code that makes that happen. It's just there. There it is. You know, yeah, function player move. Here's a comment from one of the developers. If the server corrected our position in the middle of a dodge, we might end up in the dodge active state, but with our physics set to walking. If this happened before patch 469, the player would not be able to dodge again until triggering a land event. Here, we just wait for the dodge animation to play out and then manually force a dodge direction reset. So you could just pick through the damn code, right? If you want to make, let's see, inventory, weapon. Okay, we want to make a new gun, so we just bink, right click. Here's the logic for the guns. And you can, let's see if we can pick any of this out. So, not everything is here. There's definitely more stuff because the, let me see, how do they do this? Tournament weapon, shock rifle. Okay, this is going to be the, oh no, I'm sorry, these are the Unreal guns. These are not the Unreal Tournament guns. There we go. Okay. Same answer, though. I don't think all the data is here. I think there's definitely some stuff probably happening somewhere else. But let's see. Let's find trace fire, rate self, timer, finish, play firing, projectile fire, trace hit, spawn effect. There's the idle, combo move. Okay, so this supports something called a state, and I don't know anything about that. We could probably infer many things about it, but... So what does this do? Is this a tick? Is this something that gets called per tick based on state? That's kind of what it looks like. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. And then the gun has two different fire modes. The alt fire launches like an orb that floats. The primary fire is a hit scan. That's what we call it now. They used to call it a trace. So for instance, owner.make noise, then we get our axes, then we start a trace. So this is actually calculating the hit scan. This starts from whoever has the gun plus their draw offset. So that's going to be probably calculating your orientation, where you're pointing, I think. And then I don't know what the fire offset would be, but yes, this adds up your three-dimensional position. And then start trace plus accuracy times a little bit of randomness. I didn't know that. There's some randomness. I thought this gun was perfectly accurate, but I guess not. So this is calculating the vector, it looks like. And then here we go. And then this is right here, this is the line that calculates whether we hit something. So pawn is the name of any controllable object in the game. Everything in the game is an actor, and then a pawn is a type of actor that can be controlled by something. So either a bot or a player. So this is saying, okay, call the trace shot command of a method off of the players or off of whoever fired, and then we're tracing to the hit location, the normal, so the direction we came from. Or no, I'm sorry, these are probably outs. That's right, I remember now. This is a very old style of programming that I think has largely died, that uses a lot of out variables, where you don't... It's because back in this day, nobody had thought of the idea of returning a tuple, and returning arrays was not very popular. So what you do is, if you need to return more than one piece of information from something, you would instead feed in multiple variables as out parameters. So when you call this method, other gets set to whoever you hit, but then 2 more variables, hit location and hit normal, get set to where you hit them and the normal of the hit, while the remaining while the remaining 2 variables here are inputs rather than outputs. So this is a very weird way of writing a function call, and it's obvious why we stopped fucking doing this. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, there it is. This right here is exactly how you shoot someone in Unreal Tournament. It's as simple as that. They built everything as these beautiful high-level primitives, or not primitives, but high-level functions, right? So anytime you want to do a hit scan, you just frickin' do a hit scan. It's like that. Bam, done. Now it's easier now with like all the stuff they do in Unreal now. You can do this with like much even richer objects are now available. But this is still pretty damn rich. Pretty impressive, right? And of course, if you'd like to modify this, you can just modify it. You can just make edits and save it and see what they do. And if you want, a gun to fire faster or fire a different type of projectile or whatever, you can just do that. And you can building new objects is tougher, but still not that hard. So my point is that when you say Unreal Ed, they're not fucking around. They mean it. They mean this is the program you can use to edit all of Unreal. It's an integrated development environment that's all here in one place. And that was unheard of. That was unheard of at the time. It was years. The next program that could be described like this, in my, to my awareness, was the Serious Engine. And the Serious Engine was, again, definitely developed for the purpose of being correct. Like it wasn't made for making the game Serious Sam. That was obviously a tech demo. The Serious Engine is I've not seen the underlying code or anything, but just based on the editing tools and some of the capabilities of the engine, especially given its time frame. It's very obvious that what they wanted to do more than anything was make something that was even more correcter than Unreal. Because by like 2001, something like that, when Serious came out, Unreal was already getting long in the tooth, right? We had moved so quickly. Because if you think about it, the way that I wrote a post about this on Co-Host the other day because it's so wild. If you're making a mod for Quake or Half-Life, the way you deliver it to your end user is by giving them a DLL file. And that DLL file is the source code to the game. Valve and id just gave you the source code to the game. That's what the SDK was. You didn't get the basic engine stuff. You didn't get like the polygon rendering code and stuff like that. But 95% of the game logic lived in a single DLL, and you had to edit the C source code to that DLL to make your changes. And then you had to deliver a DLL for the server and a DLL for the client if you were doing multiplayer. And that was the only way you could do it. Well, in this game, you can tell just from looking at this. I mean, it's so deeply capable of of reflection and self introspection, right? It's not surprising at all to realize that it's possible. If we go in here and open class package, and I go into where did I put it? Where did I freaking put it? Hang on, where am I? Oh, I'm on the wrong computer right now. Whoops. Well, anyway, I could go in here and load a mod, and the mod will just appear in this list, buried, 3 or 4 layers deep, wherever it needs to go. Because I can make a mod that begins with the words, weapon inherits GES biorifle, and then I can write a mutator that makes, either changes the behavior of the biorifle or makes a new weapon that works very much like it, but slightly different. And all I have to do is add a few lines of code. I can leave everything else intact and just override little bits and pieces to change what I want to change. So if I was happy with 95% of how the Enforcer pistol worked, and I just wanted to change like the alt fire, I could just ignore the primary fire. Just ignore all that code and only override the alt fire and the model and ship it. Done. And we end up with like a 200 kilobyte patch, if that. That's if I included textures, right? Otherwise, it's 4 kilobytes. So especially in these days, it was amazing that you could connect to a server, and the server would download a total conversion into your game to turn it into a different game, and then when you disconnected, it was just gone. And none of this was dangerous. None of it. You could just, to the best of my knowledge, nobody ever managed to deliver a virus or a keylogger or anything this way, because everything is completely isolated. I found out the other day that in this code, There is no way to open a file. You cannot open c:/windows.ini. Can't be done. There's no methods for that. It simply doesn't have support for opening files. The underlying code that you don't have access to, the C++ code that does, the actual rendering of polygons and accepting player input and whatnot, that's the only thing that's allowed to have native access to the system. So all this code here runs inside a deeply isolated virtual machine that doesn't know anything about the underlying system. It doesn't even know if it's running in a window or if it's a server or what. It has to ask to find out the answers to those questions. So yeah, the whole thing is very much a systems programming masterpiece. And that's why it's not surprising when you see something that's clean roomed like this. You can tell that Sweeney et al. Was obsessed with making it correctly. This is somebody who had read books about how computers should work. And if you're working like that, basically this is second system syndrome, the game. And when you're working like that, invariably what's going to happen is you're going to start out by making a little tool that lets you compile classes. And then a couple days later, you're going to go, well, I need a 3D editor. So you start making a tool that lets you mess with polygons. And, the first time you right-click and go, oh, I want to put in an object here with a script attached, you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. What if they were just the same program? What if we just married those together? And then what if the this, the that, and the other thing? What if every single thing was just one program? Because if you're developing everything from scratch and it's all connected, then why would you have multiple programs? Why would there be separate windows? Why would there be separate anything? Why not just tie everything together? This is the sort of stuff that everyone wants, and the only reason we don't do it is when we're working on something that already exists. And so it would be a ton of effort to rebuild it, to pack it all into one thing. But when you're doing it from scratch, you might as well just make it all one thing. It's free, right? It isn't really, but it is. So, yeah. As a result, Unreal is just beautiful. And, I didn't really... Yes, I agree. Godot is a great example of that. Even something like frickin' Unity, which was, developed from the ground up, still feels a little more disjointed than you'd expect, but you get into Godot and just everything is built out of primitives. You can what? Trying to remember what I was driving at. I had a point I was going to make, but whatever. Anyway, the moral of the story is that Unreal was way ahead of its time. It still ended up being, fairly outdated, fairly quickly. So it's not, surprising that they, they iterated and replaced it quite a few times in a fairly short period, because this got long in the tooth. Things like, oh, you have to hold Control and Alt and drag in order to select multiple objects. Like, oh, that sucks. I guess here's the thing about Unreal that gets me. This is I keep meaning to say this. This is what gets me. So Unreal came out, and then Unreal Tournament came out, and neither one of them ran on Linux. So weird. They outsourced the port to Loki, just like everybody did at the time. Any game that ran on Linux at the time got ported by Loki, and it was always a second class product. Now I think that Epic went on to release first class patches for it, but that's not the point. This feels like Blender people should have written it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's that sort of philosophical, like, no, see. I took an introduction to systems programming class, and now I'm going to go home and write a new operating system, and it's going to have blackjack, and yeah, we're going to do everything from scratch correctly. There are an awful lot of people go down that road, and it's very obvious that Tim Sweeney did too. This reeks of you know what? I can't make a new operating system, but I can make a new game that's as complex as an operating system and then ignore everything outside of it. And that's exactly what he did, right? When Unreal is running, it is not aware of the outside world. It is just, itself. The graphics card is the frickin', OpenGL driver, and so on. I mean, to the point that Unreal Tournament got a damn windowing system, I think that's all you really need to know, right? If we jump into UT, bam, this is an operating system. You could write applications in this, right? It's got all the bit. We have a CLI interface. We've got windowing. We got a whole toolkit. It's all here. So yeah, he didn't nail it with Unreal, but from what I've read, Unreal Tournament is so close to Unreal. It's actually it's essentially a patch, like the underlying naming for all of the Unreal game modes is called bot pack. So, for instance, if you start a capture the flag, you are actually loading the class botpack.ctf game. And the reason that it's called bot pack is because, very literally, Unreal Tournament started out as a bot pack for Unreal. Because Unreal had a multiplayer component, it was not tremendously popular, but they wanted to make it better because of what was happening with Quake. So they started writing improvements that were supposed to add good bots to the game, among other... Ooh, owie, 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 oof. I just crimped my incisions. Ow, that hurt, ow. They wrote literally a bot pack, and very briefly after they started this process, they went, ooh, this is going to get big. This is going to be a lot more complex than we were imagining at first, so let's call it a different game. But under the hood, it's the same game. It is so similar. If you load up the original Unreal Ed and you look at the classes and you look at the code, it's the same game. It's just been, it's just been finished. That's really what it is. This is what I think Tim Sweeney would have made in the first place if, like, Quake 3 had been on the horizon, and it had been known that arena shooters were about to get big. I think that this is what they would have made in 1998. But as soon as they found out, as soon as they realized where things were going, they pivoted and made very quick work of catching up. But anyway, the point is, I think that the first Unreal would have had a windowing system if Tim Sweeney had had time. I think that's the only reason it doesn't have one, because it's just such a... I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. I can't give any examples off the top of my head, but you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a windowing. There's a GUI toolkit that gets used in games, and it's all over the place. And there's just thousands of games that use this thing. And frequently, where you see it is debugging. If you get into a debug build of like a modern indie game, it will often pop up this UI that has this very distinctive ImGUI. ImGUI, that's the one. This thing is everywhere, right? Well, for decades, this is what game developers wanted. Anybody that wanted to have a debugging interface in their game would have loved this, right? Being able to like select a object to add to the world from a list with a mouse, wonderful. Being able to click on an enemy or an object in the world and tweak its properties from a little drop-down list, wonderful. And Unreal didn't quite get that, but it was also 1998, right? It was still a bit ahead of the curve to have something quite that modern. But you could still see the tendency. You can see the desire for that sort of thing as early as Unreal, right? For instance, in the first Unreal game, if you open the console and you type preferences, it opens this. And this window here is an interface to, well, it's an ini file editor, basically. And again, this is what am I trying to say here? It's holistic, right? This edits the ini file for the entire game, and it's very open source. It's such FOSS software in the sense that what we're seeing here are not just settings that are in the ini, but all the ones that are being inherited from the defaults defined in the code, right? So is when you set one of these and then close it, it writes a new line to the ini to make that save permanent. But the point is, you open the game, the finished video game that they shipped that had a campaign, you type preferences and you see settings for the editor. That is how programmer this game was. This game was deeply, passionately programmer bullshit. And to an extent, it's beautiful in that regard. To an extent, it also, I think, gave it a little bit of blandness that I think everyone detected. I remember thinking back in the day, like, wow, Unreal-based games are so distinctive. You can taste them. And it always felt a little bit like exactly what I was talking about, that it was philosophy first and feel later. I always felt the Unreal games felt very technical, felt very synthetic. But in retrospect, that was probably only because I was getting into this stuff at the time and was like very tuned into it. I doubt that anybody else noticed or cared. Let me show you something interesting. I discovered this earlier. I was editing face. Nope, this is face 2. I do not like face 2. Here we go. So first off, I don't 100% know how skyboxes work in this game, but face is surrounded by a skybox, obviously. So in the game, these walls are invisible. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they look like this. I don't know why they aren't a skybox texture. It's kind of weird. Maybe there's something in like the map settings that says, hey, if you see this texture, replace it with the skybox. You know what? Let's see. Is that true? Could that be the case? Because I have to believe there's like a map. There has to be a map settings editor. Level properties. There we go. I'll bet. Level info. Time dilation 1.0. Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, I'll bet that's how it works. But anyway, so again, this is all in-game geometry, obviously, and that includes this. In a modern game, this would be a mesh. In a game not much later than this, hell, in Half-Life, I think this would be a mesh. But no, as far as I can tell, I think that this is just a heavily distorted sphere. It all seems to be one object. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe there's a method of importing models. But what I will say is that, and let me see if I'm going to make a fool of myself here, but I believe I was able to vertex edit this. Let's see. I mean, I could be totally off base here. Again, the vertex editor fights me. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. Dink. Bonk. Yep, it's just geometry. It's just brushwork. Somebody just sat here and drug vertices around until they had something that looked good. I have no idea what the measurement unit is. So I thought that was interesting. But another thing I thought was interesting was this. This guy is over here. And again, so this is a red brush, which means this is the construction brush, right? And again, the point I was making earlier is that Unreal does not have a map format that is distinct from its level editor format. They're one and the same. So when you save a map, you are getting, you're getting it. You're getting exactly what was in the editor. There is no data loss when you close and reopen a map. What ships with the game is the editor file. So this brush, this is here where Cedric Inox left it. He was doing something with this, and he stuck it over here, the same as I did earlier, where I'm like, just get that out of the way. He left it here. This is his editor brush that's just still here from where he left it 25 years ago. That's fucked up, right? But then what I also think is interesting is you could tell what he was doing with it. So here it is, and then here is pretty clearly a brush he was using it to create. So he made this here, and then he made another one over here, and then there's another distorted one right here, and none of them do anything. Like they're all invisible in the finished game. Because if you look, this one is trapped inside an object, and this one here is also trapped inside an object, and this one is a negative brush that's floating outside the rock. But if you were to get in the game and look very closely, as you're going up this platform here, you would notice there's a little bit of a notch taken out here. And that's one of the few things that is not manual Vertex work. That's by accident. That's a mistake. He didn't intend to do that, as far as I can tell, because this is pretty clearly like I think this is decor that was going to be added to the game, and then he decided like, no, we'll just not finish that. Who cares? Because these look like pretty deliberate shapes, right? Now, it's also possible I'm wrong, and that these are serving some kind of purpose. I guess we could delete them and find out, but like for instance, this one here, this is pretty clearly doing nothing, right? Or, oh no, I'm sorry, that one is sticking out. Never mind, that one is sticking out. Hang on, let me turn off lighting. There we go. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these do stick out in visible places. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm sorry, I was full of shit. But again, you'd never see them. No one would ever notice these things. Like, let's look at where that is, right? You're never going to be able to see that. There's no vantage point. Here, maybe? No, it's underneath. You would never be able to see that. And this, why would you ever knock off a little tiny notch out of the corner? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if we move that out of the way and re-render, no one would ever have noticed that. That was not deliberate. He didn't do that on purpose. There's just not enough detail for it to make sense that this was on purpose. You know? So, I think this is just a thing he was going to do and then decided, nah, we don't need to do that. It's possible that these were supposed to be, protruding, right? So we could bring these up and see what that would look like. So, potentially, there were supposed to be sort of these, potentially there were supposed to be sort of these, obstacles, right? I mean, I can imagine that. Maybe that was the intent, to make the path just a little bit harder to get around. Maybe he was going to have these obstacles in a couple different places. Let's see, where would these go? Probably not. I don't think this is likely, to be frank, but I just think it's fascinating to think about. Let's see if we were to put that there. There we go. Okay, then we can save that. Run it. All right. And again, just to reiterate, like the iteration process is so fast, right? We're already here. We're done. There it is. This is what these would look like. Obviously, not very good. My idea was wrong, or I don't know. Maybe Cedric Florentino thought it was a good idea and then put it in there and went, "Oh, that's stupid. That's nothing," and just deleted them. Who knows? But again, just fascinating to me to see that. This is also interesting. Why are these textured so differently? Wait a minute. Hang on. Are the face towers differently textured? Did I just never notice this? Whoa. Yeah, okay. In all these years, it just never occurred to me that they have different textures. That one's got sort of a marble affect going on with some green tears on it. There and there, and this one is all brown. I never noticed this. Wow. Let's see, what else? Let's go and look at Deck 16, one of my favorite levels. Bing bong. What's interesting is it's called Deck 16-2, and I've always meant to investigate that and figure out what that means. Does that mean there was a Deck 16 in Unreal? I've never checked. Maybe there was. So this answers a question that I was curious about because I'd said earlier, how is it that multiplayer levels are so massively overlit? How do they achieve such an even lighting? Well, there's your answer. Holy shit. Look at that. Look at all those lights. Man. Now, what's really fun about this, of course, let's save this so we don't screw it up. If we were to, let's see, there we go. That's the central corridor there. Just get rid of those. Bonk. And then let's get rid of Spider. He is our hero. Let's just lose all those and then re-render. We could make this much moodier. In fact, it already kind of is. Just that one change, right? There's a mode in UT called Dark Match, which is just supposed to be you play the level, but it's dark, right? It's harder to see things. But it doesn't work very well because it's not like tailored to that purpose. So let's make a map that's supposed to be dark matched. So are there, I think there's spotlights or something, or maybe let me delete this, maybe. So where is this light coming from? Is this a light? That is a bot pack jump spot. So no. Oh wait, is there one under it? No. Where's that light coming from? Oh, there it is. And then let's lose bunch of these. Render that. I should run, ooh, wow. I should run Moody Deck 16 on my server. People might like that. Oh, you know what? That's a bit too little light. Wow, that's not nearly as fun as I was imagining. Let's just move this. I love the real-time lighting preview. It's so good. There we go. Let's launch that. Oh, that did not make as much difference as I would have expected. Gosh, this level is just obliterated with lighting. I never liked the fact there were these dark spots here, to be honest. I know why they did them, but I never liked them. I'd have to get rid of that flicker. Man, you know what? It's almost like you can't just blindly do shit like this. You have to actually think about what you're doing and put thought into it and produce something that's a coordination of imagination and practicality. Has anybody ever considered this? I think I might be the first guy. You know what? Here's a fun concept. I got something juicy. Let's see. Where is it? There it is. There we go. Very simple change, but I think we'll love this. And bloop. Okay, there we go. Now this entire area is slime. Oh, man. Yeah. Yep. As soon as you step out here, oops, all slime. Oh, man, that's good. I don't think armor protects against that either. So I don't think we'll be able to make it to the safety of the... Oh, it does. I didn't know that. There we go. Wait, there's a space under here? Wait, hold the phone. Well, I guess nobody ever would have known because this is slime, so it kills you like really quickly. So nobody would have had an opportunity to swim under there. But yeah, there was always a gap under there. I've always thought about the idea of making modifications of levels in old games like this. So they're mostly the same, but they've just got like new areas added to them and stuff like that. Always just a fun idea, if you ask me. Well, anyway, all right. That's all I wanted to do today. So that's all I'm going to do. And DM Deck 16. Oh, cute. Okay. Huh. Didn't know that. thank you all for coming. It was more people than I expected to come watch me do this. I was not able to make a map, unfortunately, but not surprisingly. I don't think anybody's shocked by that. This editor is clunkier than I remember, for sure. There are things about it that I remembered being easier to do, and they're just not. And there's things where I just didn't realize at the time how unpleasant they were. So, yeah, kind of a bummer. But you know what? Epic shows some promise, and I'm sure that later on they'll do better. I think you should keep an eye on this one. I think this company has promise. So I'm sure their next game, which will probably be called something like Unreal Tournament 2, will be a lot better. And yeah, it's still better than Hammer. It's still better than Hammer. Not hard. All right. Take it easy, folks.